welcome to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. All past shows are available in podcast form. You can find them all at ArtistFirst.com. We welcome your questions and comments. Hit us up at dj@ArtistFirst.com. Here they are, your co-hosts, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, C-Man, and welcome to the very first edition, the very first candlelight edition of The Soul of the Everyman.
Yes, welcome.
Yes, we're doing this in the dark from a cave in an undisclosed location. And Margaret's on a slight delay because she's calling in on a cell phone, and we have a couple of gerbils and a hamster wheel running a generator, and it's going to be awesome.
That's right.
That's
if
right.
It cut out, one of the gerbils gave out.
Oh, died, exactly. Yeah, the rabbit died. No, the gerbil died. And segueing from dead gerbils, I'm Michael Lyons.
Okay. And I'm Margaret.
And she's Margaret. And tonight we're going to talk about not dead gerbils and not bad power, but trust. Now, Margaret, we have talked about trust in the past.
Yes.
Right. But trust is a big subject. and I think this facet of it is germane to our current zeitgeist, our current times, if you will. And I'm just going to read what we wrote, and this will be posted on the website, of course, which is trust. Who do you trust, and can you trust anyone? The sacred commodity of trust has been broken and exploited by our hyper-connected world, made almost meaningless. And so what we're going to talk about tonight is how do we rebuild that trust, and where do we start?
Trust is an interesting concept. It's a very interesting concept because when you think about how you're trusting what it is that you are seeing, or you're trusting what you're thinking, or you're trusting what you're hearing, it all begins with your experience on life. Are you trusting yourself to be able to stand where you are, or walk where you need to go? It's something that you basically take as, okay, this is what I know, and I'm going to walk on these grounds. Sometimes you don't know the exact facts. So that's where you have to broaden your trust in things that you may not understand.
I think that's exactly it. No one of us can know everything, or maybe the better way to put it is no one of us can work out to the root of the ground truth of everything. You have to come to a point where you say, well, this piece of information I can't verify, or I just don't have time to verify every piece of information that comes into my hands. Every piece of things that you experience yourself have sort of an absolute sort of intrinsic trust. Well, that happened to me, or I did that. And then you have this next level of trust where people you know and have a relationship with and maybe see every day, or they tell you something, and you're like, well, okay, I know this person. They're not probably going to tell me something, a piece of information that is just their experience. Okay. But we've now pushed the boundaries of our information universe to encompass nearly every living human being on the planet and some who don't live on the planet.
Isn't that the truth?
Isn't that the truth? And of those 9 billion next door neighbors that we have, there may be just a couple that you shouldn't trust. One or two. And the thing is it's not that it used to be. Now it isn't. We have been living in a modern society for well over 100 years, and you certainly could talk to people across the whole globe. But it isn't that we haven't had this experience of course saying, well, these people are maybe not the most trustworthy. But now you literally open your front door or your lap. You open up your laptop in your lap, and all 9.5 billion neighbors start talking to you at the same time. Or if you just ask a question, so what do you think the best type of fill in the blank is? 9.5 billion people, it seems, have an opinion about it. And we're confronted with an immediate need to figure out who we can trust.
Right. How do you discern something as valid or trustworthy? And that's also trustworthy is an interesting word.
Mm.
Because there's a lot of assumptions that we usually make, and this new experience of different ways to communicate to other people has opened a Pandora's box, where you got a lot of good and a lot of bad. So it requires us to be able to really understand how valuable trust actually is, and trusting in other people's words. Do you give credence to them? Do their words have weight in your life, or is this an illusion that's being projected? Because we know, especially now with all types of social media, that face that people are putting out there isn't always the truth. It's not their true face. So what do you do as a human being, a member of society? What do you do?
Well, there's that, and I think you touched on another aspect, another facet of this, which is, well, let's just say you and I grew up in a less connected age. Our children, and certainly the current generation, grandchildren and so on, are growing up in a hyper connected age, and the thing that I think has become part of the root of their culture is an innate sense of untrustworthiness or wariness, far more wary than perhaps previous generations have had to be, and the wariness gets baked into them very early. They you can see countless examples of where a friend turned out to be someone who could not be trusted with whatever information it might happen to be. They're very guarded about their personal lives in some ways, and other ways not. Very guarded about what information they'll share with people and what they value. You touched on that too. What parts of you do you reserve, and then what parts, therefore, do you then distrust in others? You say, well, this just chimera, this illusion of social media. I think if perhaps from our viewpoint, it's less visceral. I think from the current generation's viewpoint, they know at a basic level that what they're seeing is probably fake. And so the credence level is starting out at near zero levels for everything they see online, which is I think bad in some ways. It's a little bit toxic to be so untrusting of what you see.
Well, this is where we're at right now. I
Yeah.
mean, anything and everything is trying to get you to see certain things, certain advertisings, certain just to grab your eyeballs,
Hmm.
because now your eyeballs are valuable. The looks that register are valuable. Um, and the old model has broken apart completely.
Completely.
So especially the advertising industry is casting about, trying to figure a way to get it to work the way that it's always worked. And, now that we have this as a comparison, you realize that they basically put on what they wanted to put on. When you had a show, the advertising that came up wasn't something that you could say, I don't want to see that.
Mm.
Whatever show you had on the
On the 3 channels that you had them on.
right, on the 3 channels that you had them on, you wound up seeing what they decided that you were supposed to see.
Hmm.
And that was interesting because back then, when it first started, people were really aware that they were being let into other people's homes. And there was a level of respect for that. What you were beginning to show, they had to make sure that if it was news, that they could verify it. If it was writing, you had to be able to show both sides of the story. There was a more rigorous level of standard. It wasn't. How do I say this?
No, you're right. I think standard is correct. More rigorous, more integrity is maybe the good word.
Right. And just the different programs. Is there entertainment value here? Is it something that can be listened to by the entire family? Because that was the whole thing. The whole family. I think it started out by gathering around the radio. Then they gathered around the television.
That was before our time.
Yes. Yes, it was. But the habit was that you would all come together. Like 8 o'clock was the hot time in the evening. The special shows. They wanted more people there, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, let's walk back. So what we're saying is, what we at that time, there was a very narrow flow of information, and it was being channeled into a very trusting populace, and so the respect of the providers of information was that we have to be as scrupulous and have as much integrity as possible. Not necessarily in every case, but the idea was that because we had this sacred trust, we talk about the sacred trust of being chosen to be the messengers. Okay,
right.
Being a messenger at that time, well, even all through, being a messenger was somebody, you had a trusted emissary, you had a messenger. You to convey information meant that you had to trust somebody with it, and then it was perhaps a challenge. There were many vicissitudes, many trials and tribulations to bring information from one point to the other. So then we go fast forward to today, or maybe just past last week, if you will, and the ease through which, like, all the gatekeepers, I think what you were talking about, Margaret, was gatekeepers, and like, what show has value, what show has somebody was sitting there and going, this has to be our best. Now, with, let's say, thousands of channels, and then literally billions of web pages, and tens of thousands of avenues, from the biggest to the smallest, where you can receive this information. The focus is no longer on integrity. It's on, as you said, getting eyeballs, getting clicks, saying the most outrageous thing possible so someone will pay attention, and getting the information as the bigger the fire hose of spewing that you can do, regardless of whether it's complete garbage or the God's honest truth. You can't
Right.
rely on the providers of anything right now. All that's been broken because the quote unquote most trusted sources of information have all succumbed. They've all succumbed to this. Get it out there, get the eyeballs, say whatever you have to say to, get whatever attention you're going to get, and don't even bother to clean it up later. Just paste it over with the next thing, and paste it over with the next thing. So it's no longer information. It's literally like a tsunami.
Yeah, it's turned into a flood of information that you as the user have got to winnow your way through. Try to figure out, well, what do I, first of all, what do I need? What do I want? You have to be, it's almost, the analogy of setting sail. You're setting sail on a sea of information, and you've got to have a course set. In other words, a direction, a way to go from here to there. And that's really what it's come down to, because now instead of it being set channels, you now have these waves upon waves of information or data coming in. And you have to begin to decide the foundation. How am I going to do this? How will I distinguish a piece of information, one from the other? And setting course means that you have a destination or an end point that you want to reach. So
I like what you're saying, but I think a sea of information is interesting, but I think if you're setting, if information is a vast amorphous thing, we don't know what's good or bad. If you're setting a course, what are you doing? Are you I think this is important, Mark. Let me see if I can say this and then see if you think about it. I think people do set courses in information right now, but what I think they end up doing is only sailing to the information that they think they want. Well, you see, like the difference would be you can't suss out every fact. So you get some things in and you say, okay, well, this is a fact, this is a fact, this is a fact, then I can draw a conclusion and I can get somewhere. But now what you have to say is, well, I want to go this way, and then you find, since there's a maelstrom, you find something that'll draw you that way. So I think it's no longer seeking facts. It's seeking what I think is right, which is a little bit different.
it's more along the lines of currents. All right, you're going to be traveling along the flows and currents of what you're seeing.
Yeah.
And is it actually bringing you to the destination you want, or are you just in there to play in the currents?
Well,
that's why they call it surfing the web.
Yeah, well, I like that, but I think here's the what I'm trying to. I think what you're saying, and what I'm going to try and say is the responsibility on the consumer of information is incredibly high now, whereas before it was the responsibility was on the provider of information. So the provider was supposed to be trusted and have integrity. That's all gone. That's completely gone. Now, you, the individual, have to have an incredibly clear moral, and moral is a hot button, but let's just say a real sense of integrity to yourself, a purity of discernment internally, because you basically, as a C, with everything out there, you have to chart a true course and
Yeah.
evaluate everything from the point of view of, is this resonating with my heart?
Is it true or not? And usually, if you ask your heart, it'll give you an answer
Right.
straight, whether you like it or not. But if you ask your head, it'll start giving you dozens of reasons why to believe or why not to believe. And it's not necessarily a fact check, if you would. It's more like I like it this way. I want to see it with chartreuse as an undertone. So I'm going to look at it this way with these glasses.
Well, you see, that's the thing. I think that because all the burden, I think really 99.9% of the burden has come to the consumer rather than the provider in this current information environment. It means that you need to be internally pure of heart. You need to understand who you are, so that you can understand what's trying to get in. It's like you have to have your gates, your eye gate, your ear gate, really really protected. And without that, you're not at sea. You're not sailing anymore. You're lost at sea. You are literally at the mercy of every one of your 9.5 billion neighbors.
Well, you don't have a rudder.
You don't have a rudder. That's a very apt analogy.
Yeah, you're just sort of in a lifeboat trying to survive. But,
yes, and the sharks are out there in essence.
Yeah, pretty much. It's interesting to see that this has become a sea of information, and it's a different awareness. You really have to transform your awareness whenever you're doing any of the media interactions. Very interesting, because it means that you have to know who you are to know what's not yours.
Right. So let's start with the tabula rasa, with the new life coming into the world, and it gets to the point where it's going to contact this sea, the sea of information. It needs to be prepared. A person today going into this without any preparation, without a center, without being grounded, without having guards on the eye gate, guards on the ear gate, is going to be immediately swept away. And I think, interestingly enough, in the prior age, go back 50 years, people had more of a center and used it less. We're trusting more of others and letting the other person's opinion. They must know better. The doctor must know better. This one must know better.
Right, the authority figure.
But they had a center, but they just said, well, I can delegate my trust, because these people, they're there to help me. I'm from the government. I'm here to help you. That's a joke now. It wasn't a joke 60, 70, 80 years ago, but it's a joke now. But we've flipped it around, Mom, because we now say that you must have this incredibly rock solid, stainless steel core, and yet they don't. They're not given anything, and then just thrown into it like swim or die.
Right, they become fodder.
Yeah.
And that's the sad thing. It's like they're not being taught the stability of understanding who or what you are, uh, your own identity without something else imposing its identity on you.
Right. And you mentioned earlier in this half hour that the advertising models are all broken. And I think that this insatiable need to sell things is looking for a way to manipulate the masses. And what I see is that they're using this maelstrom to to try and guide these people into the rocks, guide them into, blow them off course into their island, blow them off course into their area where they can at least pack them in and harvest
Right.
these people, their minds, their hearts, their souls, um, and so keeping people ungrounded is the new model.
That's true. That's true. You have to live in this maelstrom. You have to live in this mess, and and that's just the way it is. And you're sitting there going, no, that's not the way it is.
No, people are.
You as a human being, you understand that there's something more than just this randomness that you see, and that people keep giving you things because they want you to see this, and you begin to value your own eyes, your own consciousness. What are you electing, deciding to see? What are you letting in that you can think about or experience? I mean, it's become more intense question, more weight to this question now than ever before, because you realize that there's things out there that are just, that they want this from you. They want you to do this. And do you really want to do that?
Yeah, exactly. The insatiable desire to control the energy of the audience, to attract an audience when there's such incredible competition has driven all the trust out of the 9.5 billion neighbors we have. But then it's become incredibly important, because all of us are those neighbors, to become discerning. But what is discernment? Discernment is in a complete lack of trust. In the sense of you never take anything on face value. You almost can't. The only thing you can do is say, does this meet my internal guidance? But you don't. Whenever something comes into you through this box or through all the airwaves or everything, you have to always put it right in front of the eye gate, right in front of the ear gate, and say, wait, friend or foe, challenge it.
Well, you need to evaluate it before you partake of it. You just don't eat everything that's put in front of you, like, just. And it's more so that, oh well, maybe this will taste good kind of thing. It's more than that, because you're realizing that what you're taking in will affect you. I think that's really the issue. To understand that whatever it is that you're letting into your eyes or into your ears, this will affect you, and it may take your own identity over.
Yeah, it's
sort of like
it's
a modern,
not an innocent thing.
Right. It's like a modern day demon, right? Techno demon.
Techno demon. Well, you know what? On that incredible point, we're going to go back to the studio and deal with our own techno demons, and we'll come back on the other side, and maybe, who knows, maybe the power will come on.
wait is over. First Blood, Book 2 of the Blood series is out. Your favorite bad boy thief, Dev, is back, and the beautiful and deadly Trey is right there with him. She is sharp, sexy, and full of surprises. Their adventures continue as a new power arises to threaten the world. The heart of creation is under attack, and time is definitely not on their side, as they battle against their enemies' undead hordes. Can they unlock the hidden power that can defeat him, or will his forces draw first blood? Get all 3 installments in the series. Book 0, It's in the Blood. Book 1, Destroyer's Blood, and the new release, Book 2, First Blood, today. Available in ebook and paperback format on Amazon, Kobo, Apple, and most other fine e-tailers.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lynes is Book 1 of the Adventures of Dev Kalian, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword Betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time.
Hi, this is Hannah Ruth from the band Wild Hum. Check out our new Americana Soul CD, Wild Hum, at our website, wildhummusic.com. And you are listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Thank you.
The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lynes, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indie Brag Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir, There is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
Thanks for joining us on The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Back to your co-hosts, Michael and Margaret Lynes.
Thank you very much, Z-Man. And this is still the candlelight edition of The Soul of Everyman, so this is sort of an intimate affair. And Margaret's had to move to an undisclosed location because evidently I'm too loud and I'm echoing, and that's terrible. But we're just gonna soldier on. So anyway, you can trust us about this. Everyone else you can throw away, but The Soul of the Everyman, we are absolutely good for your eye gate and your ear gate. But tonight we are talking about trust, and I think for this half hour, let's talk about the last half of our statement, Margaret, which is how can we rebuild it? Where do we start? You know, how in this we have the world we have. So what can we do?
Well, it has a lot to do. Really, you got to start with knowing who you are, what it is that is you, what makes up you, and understand that every single person is not going to be you.
That's such a great point. Can you? That's exactly it. Say that again.
Understanding who you are. In other words, what makes you tick, what motivates you, what is it that you love. And it's just understanding you. It's not in the realm of judging you, because people make that mistake. It's just understanding who you are right now.
Well,
And
go ahead. Sorry.
And in that, knowing what it is that makes you smile, makes your heart sing, real joy in your life. What really brings joy? Are you capable of allowing yourself to do that without judging whether you're doing it right? Am I feeling happy the right way? Am I judging joy the right way? It's funny because people asking me, well, what's love? Can you tell me what love is? And you're just like, if you have to ask, then you've never experienced it. It's understanding that it's the experience that life is that is the important things in your life, or the important events in your life. You almost have to look at your life as a series of events, not a series of things that you have to engage in. And I think that's interesting, because we're trained, especially because we're being inundated by advertising, that we have to live according to a series of things instead of a series of events in your life. And it's a more subtle, basic mindset.
Well, I have to go back, because you had about 14 really good points in there. But the one that really struck me was when you said not everybody is going to be you.
Well, that's at the very beginning.
That's the very beginning, but that's and the other, I'm going to get back to the other 13 points. But this one, I mean, this is, I think, almost key. In the and the other point that goes with it is the one you said where you have to know who you are, and not always say whether am I doing it right, am I so not everybody is going to be you is the the gate that a lot of people use. The gate that they use is that I'll only listen to and accept information which looks exactly like me. It's the identity fallacy. If it doesn't look exactly like me and like everything that I think I am, I'm not going to listen to it. So this is basically narrowing your focus to who you think you are. But the breaker of that is what you said next, which is that if you're allowing that which you hear to influence who you think you are all the time. In other words, am I doing it right? Is this the right way to love? Is this the right way to buy deodorant? Whatever it is, then you're not actually even doing the identity. You're actually letting you're letting it curve you in any way that it wants to curve you, just by saying, well, look, you can be more like me, and then we'll both be together, and then it just kind of curves people in that direction. So there's a great risk in that wanting everything to be like me desire.
Well, if you think about it, truly, you are alike in certain processes, but not alike in qualities. You, as a human being, you have to function a certain way in order to digest your food, interact with other people, speaking, understanding what the conversation actually means, consciousness, emotion. I mean, there's a whole range of things that we all say we participate in. But the way you do it, the quality of it, how deeply do you go into a certain emotion, your response to the depth of feeling. Are you willing to allow yourself to see deeply into you, or are you afraid of you?
Well, I love this. This is exactly what you were saying. Is this. So let's back up. I mean, we're going to talk about how do we rebuild trust. So these are some of the pitfalls. If you say, well, I trust myself and I only look for copies of me, I think that is not enough, right? That's actually going to allow you to be drawn drawn off your path by something which looks like you but isn't you. It's that whole chimera thing. You see it a lot in social media. People are entrapped or at least influenced by this. Well, we're all going to be wearing our plaid shorts outside together, kind of thing. But you maybe rapidly find that that's not who they really are, and then therefore you feel a little you feel a little betrayed, right?
Well, it's understanding that if you actually approach the media as and you as you said, you're choosing people who seem similar to you. If you approach it in terms of understanding that it's just a reflection, not the real person. It has the appearance of me, but it's just a reflection, a two-dimensional reflection in a pane of glass.
Isn't that it? It's just a mirror, or they try to make it a mirror.
Well, that's how they get your attention. That's how they grab your eyeballs.
Right.
And then what you take from that is the key. You're like, okay, if you can look at that reflection and say, okay, that sort of looks like me. What is the interaction? What kind of vibe am I getting from this person? What kind of energy am I getting from this person? Are they only yes men, being a yes man, yesing me to death and saying, oh yes, I agree, oh yes, I agree, oh yes, I agree. Right. Let's do this.
Well, and right there, the let's do this is their way of, okay, now I've hooked you. So now let me see if I can pull you.
Right. Well, if you think, that's the thing. If you've taken steps into any kind of conversation, how deep were the conversations? Do you actually know the character of this person? Do you know any real thing about them? And that's the other interesting thing. I think when people begin to talk about real stories or experiences that they've had in their lives, people know. They know when you're having this as a real experience, not a production. The minute it steps into production, that's when the red flags come up. You're like, this is too pat.
Let me stop you. Yes, exactly. So do we have an innate sense? I think the answer to this is yes, but I'm going to ask it as a question. An innate sense of when something resonates as true.
Yes, you do. When you listen with your heart, your heart knows it's true. If you're listening and all you want to do is mentally agree, yes, that you're a yes man, that should be a red flag for you, saying, okay, this is not really uh, a deep soul resonance.
Mm.
This is a mental resonance. And to know the distinction between the two. I think that's one of the things that this has pushed people into.
So I think the way we used to talk about this was it had hooks. It was sticky. It was you would feel as though you were being manipulated. So that sense, you think, has come forward, that people still have an innate sense of when they're being manipulated.
Right. Unless, sometimes people have a harangue. They have a what's the word I'm looking for? They want to say one thing and say this is the way it is, and all these other people are with me to prove that I'm right.
Mm. Yes, appeal to, yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to really looking at it objectively. The other flag that goes up is when people want to be judge, jury, and executioner.
Yes.
It just means that you have no respect for anybody else except your pack. And that's it.
Well, I think what it is it comes down to that if you one of the discernment points you can do is if you ask of a source, of these 9.5 billion sources, you say, well, you challenge it. You say, well, that doesn't sound right to me. Can you, and just say something that will bolster your point without referring back to, these are all the logical fallacies, but we won't talk about them. But you, without referring back to yourself, we're saying it's right because I say it is, that kind of thing. It has to be an independent source. And if you get pushback, like you were saying, where they say, well, I want to be judge, jury, and executioner, it's my way or the highway, it's a red flag.
Right. And you really don't want to be drained by it. See, it's understanding that kind of energy will take over and take your life force. Because the phones that we have, they're portals where you will receive energy as well as give energy through it. So do you really want to get drained by this person? And we've all felt that, honestly, that you felt drained by some sort of conversation or that you've had with somebody. Like, do you really want your precious life force to be given to this other person? Because inevitably, when you give it to that other person, they're on such a power trip. They're getting a high off of it. I mean, really? Is this what you want to participate in?
So if we go back a little bit, part of what because the consumer now has all the responsibility, the first realization is that everything that's coming towards you can't be trusted implicitly. But yet, explicitly, you can say, I have to evaluate. First of all, I have to limit how much of this I bathe myself in because it can carry you away. And then I have to say to myself, I have to evaluate what I hear and what I see and what comes into me based on whether I can pass it through these kind of challenges. Does it resonate? Can I find another independent source? Yeah, and I think this is what we've been forced, and probably maybe it's a good thing to do. We can't just trust that Uncle Milty will tell us the right thing all the time. We have to say, no, I'm sorry. All of you are on probation.
Mm-hmm. No, it's again, you choose. You have the power to choose what it is that you would like to interact with. And the question always comes up, did you really get anything from this interaction? Did you learn something? Did you, were you elated afterwards? It brought you happiness or joy? Or did you feel like, gee, I'm spent. I feel like I've been used. And nobody likes that feeling.
Well, so if we were to quantify it, you have to feel as you interact. You have to feel whether you're being drained, whether something is attaching, putting hooks into you to drain you of something, rather than either be equal, sharing, or even provide.
Well, it's again, are you feeding something?
Right.
Is this something you actually want to feed? Or is this something that is demanding to be fed?
That's feeding off of you unwilling.
Right. In other words, is this a parasite that's sucking my life's blood? Or is this a conversation with a friend that lifts both of you up? Because that's with a true friend, inevitably you are both lifted by the interaction. So it's evaluating the quality of your relationship with whoever it may be on the other side.
So let me ask you a question. So this, to me, says that when you're exposing yourself to this, you have to be wary, and you have to be very, very self-aware of your internal. You're like you become very sensitive to whether or not even the beginnings of this is happening. Otherwise, you get lost very quickly. So right away, you feel. I think we've done this ourselves. You say, you're listening to something. You say, "That's not right. That's just a story." That has all the feels of somebody trying to hook your ear or hook your eye.
Right. This is a story someone is telling themselves.
And then you think, what's their motive? Why?
Mm-hmm. There is a whole, then that triggers a whole different way of trying to figure out what is actually going on.
Right.
Because people, people like stories.
Yes.
They do. People love stories.
And you know what? There's the other interesting thing, and I think this is true, is if people are upfront with you. Let's say you say this is a story, just enjoy it, and you've kind of bought into the initial truth of, I'm not trying to fool you. I'm letting you know up front that this is not necessarily true, but it's entertaining. Then you start on a different basis.
Yeah. Well, if you know that they're basically going to tell you a story,
right.
I mean, that was a tradition all the way back. The storytellers were always valued because, frankly, there was no TV. So
right.
You wanted to have people love stories. It's just the way it goes. But to evaluate it, to say to yourself, do I really want to take this in? Does it make me feel tired? Does it make me feel peaceful? Am I serene after this conversation, or am I
energized?
Strung out?
Or strung out, yes.
So it's really, you have to become self-aware to know that this is draining me or this is feeding me. Because most of the time you go out there to be fed a clear, how do I say this? Clear, clean nourishment. Exercises and learning, whether it is intellectual learning or emotional learning, but learning.
And that's the incredibleness of where we are, because you can learn so much and so easily. So there's a huge benefit to one who has become discerning. You can really access the knowledge of the world through this, and that's the beauty of it. So if we say we have to not trust, at least in what comes in implicitly, but yet we can at least trust our own feeling about as we eat of this nourishment, and then I think we can, have an incredible banquet.
Yes. No, we are living in amazing times.
Yeah.
When you think about what you have access to just through this phone, and you think about how the phone has evolved, but what you can actually find out just doing research on your phone is amazing.
Yeah.
Stuff that you'd always wished you had when when you had to do reports.
Right. Well, the difference between having to crack open a book, go to the library, and scull it out and spend hours and hours and learn a couple of things. Whereas now, in a couple of clicks, you can just be through this torrent, this fire hose of things. It's wonderful and terrible at the same time.
Right, because you have to figure out, okay, I'm opening up this line of information. What is it specifically that I need to see or look at? What is that's your purpose. That is, you're setting your course when you open that one up.
Yeah. So what we're really saying is that, well, I mean, this is going to sound terrible. Trust is dead, in one sense. Trust, implicit trust in everything that comes.
Implicit. Yeah, I don't hear you. Trust is not dead.
Uh-oh. The battery might have given up its ghost.
Yeah, Scott, can you hear?
I can hear.
Scott?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. All right, yeah, Michael's computer has died.
Okay, folks, they said at the beginning of the broadcast, they were operating on cell phones because there was a power outage where they are, and so we're going to lose 2.5 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
Margaret, I guess you're going to have to give the wrap-up then.
Okay, well, implicit trust is...
Uh-oh. That didn't sound good. All right, well, they knew that this might happen. Yep, they're gone. All right, folks. Well, there's a lot of great shows. We only missed out on a little less than 2 minutes. You've been listening to The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Everybody be safe. Get those vaccinations. We'll see you next week.